Koto, and welcome to this extra time video for Ares Corporation. If you're wondering what happened to my face, well, we did a Halloween photo shoot recently and I shaved it all off, so it'll grow back. This weird face is... Anyway, we'll move on to what we're actually here to talk about. Now, Extra Time is a video series that I do infrequently when I come across games that I just have more to say about. When there's something that I can't cover in the 3 minutes that I really want to talk about. And with Ares Corporation, it's really about originality in board gaming. Before we get too far into this video, I want to make it clear that this isn't a witch hunt, and I'm not calling for anyone's heads or anything like that, and I'm not even really accusing anyone of plagiarism. What I am going to talk about is how you can make a good game that's fun, that's playable, that's engaging and enjoyable, but it's still not very original, because that's what's been bugging me about the Ares Corporation. It's a good game. It's a solid game. I had fun playing it. There are great interactions in it, and it's good. It's very good even. But the one thing holding it back for me is it just didn't cover any new ground whatsoever. It was one of the safest designs I've seen in a very long time. They essentially took the foundation blocks from Race for the Galaxy, Terraforming Mars, and spliced them together to make a very sound but very safe game. Now, if you're watching this video, I'm going to assume you've seen the Ares Corporation video, so you know how that game plays. But I want to do some more direct comparisons between the Ares Expedition and Race for the Galaxy. Unfortunately, I don't own a copy of Race for the Galaxy except digitally at the moment, so I'm going to have to substitute in its cousin, Roll for the Galaxy. Sometimes there are things in media that are just too familiar. A good example of this is when you hear a piece of music that sounds an awful lot like another piece of music. So, Billie Jean, Michael Jackson. And then you hear Billy Ocean's Caribbean Queen. So those are very similar pieces of music, yet distinct enough when you put all the bits and pieces together that they're totally different songs. But the bass hooks have a lot in common, and that's kind of what's happening with Race for the Galaxy and Ares Expedition here. The bass hooks, the core building blocks of the game are similar. The differences in music, if something is that similar, people sue and there's millions of dollars. But in board game design, because you can't copyright a mechanic, and because, well, if you could, basically no board games would get made, it's a little bit different. But there is that level of similarity between the games. Let's pop over to the other table. And here we are with both of the games. Roll for the Galaxy, representing the Galaxy series of games, and Terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition. Now, if you watched the video, you saw that there are these 5 turn order tokens that Terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition has. Well, Roll for the Galaxy has 5 too. And we should go through and compare just how similar they are, because they're remarkably similar. The first one is the Explore phase, which in Race for the Galaxy lets you draw cards. The bonus for selecting this one is it allows you to draw more cards and to keep more cards, which is exactly the same as the research tile. These two tiles are virtually identical. One just happens at the start of the round, one just happens at the end. Then we've got, in Race for the Galaxy, we've got the development and the planetary phase. I can't remember what it's called. Build, colonize, settle. We've got the develop and settle phases. And these allow you to play 2 different types of cards, which is exactly the same as the development and construction tiles in Ares Expedition. Development lets you play one type, like development does develop in Race for the Galaxy. And construction lets you play 2 types of cards because, well, Terraforming Mars had 3 types of cards, not 2. Then we come down to tile 4, production. They're both production. They're both core production. They both produce things. And finally, we have the action phase and the trade phase. And well, these are the ones that seem initially like the most different, but in the action phase, you can do a whole bunch of funky extra effects. That's unique, and not in any of the Race or Roll for the Galaxy games. But mostly, the core thing of this is spending your built-up resources to score points. And that's what you do in trade. You trade goods to get victory points in Roll for the Galaxy. This isn't just a case of this system being similar. This system is the same. It's fundamentally the same with tweaks. There are bigger differences, as you saw me sort of muddling through, trying to remember the difference between Race for the Galaxy and Roll for the Galaxy, than there are between Race for the Galaxy and Ares Expedition. And this game is a branded for the Galaxy game, yet it's more distinct mechanically than this one. And I find that kind of frustrating. Now, it's not my style to do a wholesale character assassination on a game unless it's really bad. And I want to keep repeating this. Ares Expedition is not a bad game. First of all, the components are top-notch. It's beautiful. The gameplay loop, because it is so close to Race for the Galaxy, is excellent. So it is that brilliant hybrid of Race for the Galaxy and Terraforming Mars. It does combine aspects from both those games, and both those games are bangers, and they're really good ones to play. So if you are looking for that between game that nestles between those, that takes an hour or so to play and has a big amount of engine building for you, not as much as Terraforming Mars, but a bit more in depth than Race for the Galaxy, this could be a Grail game for you. It's really good in that regard. But that doesn't take away from my original point that it's safe and it doesn't do anything original. So as a consumer, there's nothing really to be concerned about here. No one's been victimized or ripped off or anything in the making of this game. And Ares Expedition is, as I've said several times, a good, solid game. So why is this bugging me so much? And why have I felt like I needed to make this video? And I think I've distilled it down to this one issue. I cannot see a way Ares Expedition came about without an initial conversation that said, you know what, we should make Race for the Galaxy, but Terraforming Mars. This isn't a case of parallel development. This isn't a case of we came up with these ideas and oh, they just happened to be in this exceedingly popular, ubiquitous game. I can't think of how this game came into being without it being deliberately derivative of Race for the Galaxy. And that bugs me slightly. It feels cynical. It feels a bit lazy, to be honest. And while they've still delivered a good game, I think this niggle is just gonna get under my skin with Ares Expedition every time I play it. Every time I play it, I'm gonna be just like, this is Race for the Galaxy on Mars. And it's like you're watching a good film. You're watching a really good film, but then you click to something. You're like, wait a second. This is about a Belgian detective on a transcontinental railroad solving a murder, but it's not an Agatha Christie. And someone goes, yeah. It's not Murder on the Orient Express. It's Murder on the Mariner Express, because it's in space. And the characters are different. And the setting's different, but it still feels really, really familiar. And that familiarity might be a good thing for you. You might slide in to Ares Expedition like a hot tub and just go, this is great. This is exactly the game I wanted. I wanted Race for the Galaxy and Terraforming Mars to have a baby, and for that baby to be this game, and that baby is my baby. And that's cool. Ultimately, I hope this video just prompts a discussion on originality in board gaming. How important is it? Does it actually matter that games are quite derivative? Should we just expect that? Is novelty in board gaming overrated? And is it just that hard to actually come up with something new? Because every single game I've played is a derivative in some way. Nothing is totally novel. Every LCG uses a resource system and probably tapping of cards. Magic might have been novel at one point. Dominion might have been novel, but every deck builder is essentially borrowing from those core mechanics. Every game is made up of little building blocks that have appeared elsewhere. It's the unique combination and unique presentation of those building blocks that makes each game what it is. And the last thing to conclude on is, will this game grow on me? Will I be one of those people who finds it a comfy hot tub to crawl into when I don't have the time to play Terraforming Mars? Or am I going to be one of those people who goes, nah, this one's not for me? Anyway, anyone out there who's played Terraforming Mars, Race for the Galaxy, and Ares Expedition, let me know in the comments how similar you found the games, and whether that was a good thing for you because you found it comfortable, or whether it was a bad thing because it felt overexposed, or whatever your reasons for liking or disliking the game were. And if you can provide other good examples of games that when you played you went, wait a second, this feels entirely too much like another game and another game, put those in the comments as well. And finally, I earlier talked about music with the Billie Jean and Caribbean Queen example. But a lot of songs are essentially 4-chord turnaround songs. And if you've watched the 4-chord song video by Axis of Awesome, you'll understand that a lot of music is just taking the same building blocks and putting different things on it. And board gaming is a lot like that. A lot of it is derivative. While I have picked out the Ares Expedition for a bit of a thrashing here, that's just board game design. That's just a hobby. If I ever play a 100% original game, I will let you know. And 3-Minute Board Games does not do paid content. If you like what you see here, come support us on Patreon. And if you enjoyed this video, hit the notification button, subscribe to the channel, and please come support us on Patreon.